I am going to go a slightly different direction, though. I am going to go with the Atlanta Braves, and I have a couple reasons why. I believe the Padres are going to kind of beat up on the Dodgers, or at the very least, add an extra, couple little bumps and bruises along the way. I expect the Braves to handle their business in a good National League East, a improved National League East, but I believe that they handle their business. They then obviously match up with the Dodgers in the NLCS. We saw what happened last year in the National League Championship Series. Braves are up 3-1. If it's not for a Will Smith on Will Smith crime where Will Smith, the catcher, hits a home run off Will Smith, the pitcher, we might have a different World Series champion. What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It is time for the Changeup, our weekly baseball podcast here on the network. A very, very special one. This is a special, essentially opening day eve of the podcast. By the time we talk to you next week, the season will have begun. 2 days away. I am Brandon Ferst. Obviously, find me at First Report. My co-host, Bryanna Winner. You can find her at bwinner12. Bryanna, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited that baseball is getting started in 2 days. I hate that the Angels have to face the White Sox first, though. But
yeah,
I mean, we'll talk about the White Sox in a little bit.
Yeah, they unfortunately have some news. No team ever wants to hear in spring training in a situation you lose player, but we'll get to that in a bit. Obviously, like I said, you're really, really excited, not only for baseball to come back, but for us to get a full season of baseball. It's, April 1st or early April, late March. That's usually, spring, or at the very least, the beginning of baseball season. Last year, not so much. We had to wait an extra 3 months for that to happen. So we're getting hopefully 162, or at least going to give it the old college try, get as many as we can in. So all steam or full steam ahead. But before we get into the season, let's look ahead to things that are going to affect certain teams going into that. And unfortunately, the injuries have begun, or at least major injuries. Every team has a couple players that are going to maybe miss opening day for a couple week or two, or for a week or two. Nothing too crazy, but there are a couple somewhat major injuries. We'll start with, I would say, the serial offender, at least team-wise. We'll head up to the Bronx and the New York Yankees. It's not the usual suspects, but it is Luke Voit. He will have surgery on a torn meniscus. He'll be out at least 3 weeks, probably more than likely 3 to 6 weeks. This is just kind of par for the course for the Yankees, it seems like. Bryanna, what are your thoughts? Luke Voit, early season surgery.
I mean, the Yankees just have probably the worst luck out of every team, unless you're the Pirates, because you suck. I mean, at least it's only a few weeks at the very least. I mean, yes, it could go more, but at least you have a timetable that you can be like, okay, we'll check again in a few weeks. We'll see where it goes. I mean, yes, he's going to get surgery, so it's going to take some time to get past that. But, I mean, he's a first baseman. He'll be fine.
Yeah, and even that, yes, he is a first baseman. Like we said, super easy. You could also put him as a DH. Obviously, yeah. The Yankees probably want to use that for maybe a couple of their other big sluggers to keep them healthy. But they bring in Jay Bruce, who, is past his prime, but he could run into a couple here and there. He's a warm body to fill in for the first couple weeks. And the Yankees always seem to have some players also that'll come up and make a bit of an impact. I don't think this is devastating for the Yankees. Obviously, Judge, Stanton, Cole, LeMahieu. Those are the names you don't want to see. I will say, though, look, if you're going to have a little bit of injury worries in terms of the weeks, not the months, but, the weeks expected out, it is probably best to do it early on. Like I said, never great to be injured, but if you are going to be slightly nicked up for start of the year is somewhat the best time. Moving on to a injury that no good time to ever get this. And it's, of course, Eloy Jimenez, really one of the rising stars in baseball, playing for the White Sox, a ruptured PCL that will require surgery. He's out for 5 to 6 months. He could possibly come back in September. Way too early to make any prognosis like that. But for the moment, he will be out for the year. Bryanna, what are your thoughts? I know you've been very high on the White Sox. What do you think this does for the White Sox and for Eloy?
I mean, for the White Sox, for pitching wise, obviously they're going to be fine either way. But in left field, obviously you're going to have that hole now. He was trying to rob a home run, which is probably something you don't want to try to do during spring training for this very reason. And it's not going, and if you end up catching it, it wasn't going to matter because these games don't count for anything. But he was making a play over the left field wall. His arm hooked over it. And when he landed, he just stayed down. And I mean, I've seen videos of it, and I guess his arm just like hung there. Like he did not move it. So, I mean, it's one of the worst injuries probably that you can have aside from obviously Tommy John's, which we've seen with Ohtani's case. It took 2 years really to come back from, as evidence from last year's outings. I really hope he doesn't have those again. But I mean, again, you don't want, yes, you want to make these big plays, but don't do it during spring training. Yes, it's early, but you're going to be out for the majority of the season if you even make it into the playoffs, which I'm sure the White Sox will. If they can all stay healthy, I'm sure they will, and he'll have time to come back for playoffs. But you're missing the entire season. You're not going to be able to throw. You're not going to be able to really catch. Actually, you can throw because it's not his throwing arm. But, I mean, you're not going to be able to catch it. You're not going to be able to field it. You can't do anything right now. So he's just going to have to wait on it and rehab it. If he's out for the entire year, so be it. I mean, if he misses, an extra month, it doesn't matter. All you want is for him to be healthy next year.
Definitely. We're not talking about a, 34, 35-year-old, superstar who's, at the end of his road. This is obviously a long-term player for the White Sox and Eloy Jimenez. And it's very difficult because I've talked about this with Fernando Tatis Jr. I love the energy he plays with. I love the reckless abandon he plays with, but he doesn't turn it off. And we've seen it in spring, very similar. Now, obviously, as a shortstop, you don't have a wall to deal with or situations like that, but it's 110% at all times, which is great until you see, your superstars. And Fernando Tatis's case, he was playing winter ball in the Dominican this year, which once again, I'm a fan of, but knowing the way Tatis plays, I don't want him to, miss the entire year because of what's going on in February in the Dominican, as opposed to what could be happening with the Padres in July, August, September. But that didn't happen, thankfully. But Eloy is the same way, high octane guy. It's tough to sit here and say, don't do that. Don't go and make that play. It's very similar to like on a Hail Mary play. To tell the defensive back, don't intercept it, because their entire life, it's go and catch that ball, go and rob that home run. Unfortunately for him, it is a play that he will probably run through his mind for a long time. And who knows, this might change his outlook on definitely spring training. Obviously, I don't think he did anything wrong. It was a situation of, okay, hey, you got to almost pace yourself, pace your body in this situation. We're not leaving our feet on the warning track in spring training for the rest of your career type thing. Make your adjustment that way. Very unfortunate. It came in a non-consequential game. Like we said, Eloy, it's going to be tough for the White Sox. I think the Twins will be very fortunate, or at least happy. I don't know if happy is the right word, but they will be benefiting from this in that American League Central. And I do believe the fact that the division is rather weak will help the White Sox as well kind of weather this storm, losing one of your big bats in that lineup. But that is what we got for the big injury news and updates. It is time now to enter the winner's circle. Of course, Bryanna's domain. And like I said, as of right now, I'm still kind of side-eyeing the security, making sure they're not making a beeline for me. I'm allowed in for the moment. We'll see how that goes. So it is time to step on into the winner's circle. It's all yours, Bryanna.
So I know I had sent you about one pitcher coming in, but they actually added 2 relief pitchers in the last, I think, 48 hours. Tony Watson and Steve Cishek. If I say his name wrong, I'm sorry. They both signed a $1 million 1-year contract. So Watson was released from a minor league contract by the Phillies a few days ago. Same thing with Cishek, except with the Astros. So we've got extra relief pitchers here. Luke Bard is currently on the 60-day IL. I don't exactly know what the injury is, but I mean, we've got more pitchers. I'm happy. And Ohtani obviously started the final. He started last night's game against the Dodgers, or midday, whatever it was. He ended his final start of spring training after only 3 innings. And this was because obviously he had some discomfort in his hand. He could not find his fastball. He couldn't find a few other pitches. He had a blister on his middle finger of his throwing hand, which obviously he has battled before. So hopefully it will not sideline him for long on the pitching side. But that is all I've got for the winner's circle. Aside from they are facing the White Sox opening day.
Yeah.
So it'll be entertaining, to say the least.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I wonder with today, the announcement, or maybe it was yesterday, last night, with Felix Hernandez essentially now becoming a free agent again. I'll tell you, the first thing that I thought of when I saw that was the Angels. To bring in now he's not your ace. He's not King Felix of 5 or 6 years ago. It's not going to cost a lot of money. He's already familiar with that division. Obviously with his time with the Mariners, I think he could come in and be a guy who could look at guys like Dylan Bundy and Canning and maybe, I guess, be a bit of a mentor to them. Now that's, me kind of spitballing, but for Ohtani and the blister, it's one of the more, I don't want to say underappreciated or overlooked things. The blister on a pitcher is right there with shoulder pain. If you don't know how to manage a blister, it can end your season. Rich Hill a couple years ago missed almost three or 4 months because he could not get his blisters under control. And they're really one of those things where you just have to fight through it and you just have to get calloused over and you have to deal with it that way. I don't want to say when it rains, it pours, because this is nothing compared to Tommy John and everything he dealt with for the last couple years. But blisters seem to be something that he's dealt with before.
And it appears from what I've read that this blister started in his last start last week. So he's been dealing with it for about a week now.
Yeah.
As far as
very interesting to see when he is, I guess, slotted in, or when he will make his first pitching appearance. Do they give him maybe a little extra time to get that figured out? But once again, like I said, it's one of those things, at least when I was pitching and I wasn't, believe me, not a major league or anything like that, but all the technology they have, but it was one of those things. You had a blister, you just had to kind of pitch through it. Eventually it's going to hurt and it's going to, mess with you, but eventually you got to kind of callous over it and move on. But we'll see how Shohei goes with that. Once again, compared to Tommy John the last couple of years, a blister, I think he'll be okay with dealing with that. Best of luck to him, because I'll be honest, I want to see Shohei Ohtani do both. I want to see him play a full year and play both positions as best he can. And at the end of the day, if any way we can get Mike Trout into the playoffs, that is a plus, and a healthy Shohei Ohtani is a plus in that direction. So moving on to Peoria, or at least moving out of Peoria, are the Padres. Heading back to San Diego, it is time to begin the year. They will start at home against the Rockies. It's going to be interesting to see how this team deals with the injuries, or at least the question marks that they have heading into this spring. It was who was going to be the number 5 starter. Turns out it now kind of is who's going to be the number 4 and 5 starter, with Denilson Lamet maybe a little going to miss the first couple weeks. It seems like Mackenzie Gore was a name that was talked about. That did not go terribly well. In 11 innings this spring, he gave up 6 earned runs, really struggled with command. He has already been sent to, or he will be, we assume, sent to the alternate training site, and then, barring injury, sent to the minors when they get rolling. Chris Paddock, by default and experience, will get the number 4 spot, but he had a very rough spring. This is a guy that, if you've listened to me in the past, I root for him just as much as anyone, but I've said if Chris Paddock had half as much talent as Chris Paddock thinks he does, he would be a really good pitcher. I just need him to bring it down a notch. You're going to show up in a bolo tie and a cowboy hat and cowboy boots for every start. I need you to have a ERA below 4.5. That's just kind of what I need. But that's apparently just me. But Chris Paddock will get that number 4 probably by default. So the last bit was really between Adrian Morejon and Ryan Weathers, still up in the air. Both pitchers will make the roster. Excuse me. Ryan Weathers was told he will make the roster, so that's great for him. Adrian Morejon, I believe, will get that number 5 slot because he has the experience pitching at the level more so than Ryan Weathers. I think Ryan Weathers would be a nice left-handed arm out of the pen. Matt Strahm is no longer with this team. Matt Strahm was kind of always that long reliever, left-handed arm out of the pen who could pitch to righties and lefties. I like that situation for Ryan Weathers. I think for him, he wants to start, obviously. But in this situation, I believe it will be Morejon who will get the nod in that number 5 spot. Also injured is Trent Grisham, still up in the air if he will start the year on the IL or if he will be day-to-day on the roster. Interesting situation there with him and Lamet. But one is Austin Nola. He will be starting on the IL. So Austin Nola, that leaves a spot open now. Obviously, Nola, the starter, that's going to give Carantini and Campusano a chance to split time. Carantini will start every 5 days at the very least to catch Yu Darvish, but I do expect Carantini and Campusano to split time in Nola's absence. Unfortunately, that's kind of what the spring was for the Padres, kind of weathering the storms, no pun intended, while talking about Ryan Weathers there. But they got through it. No big names got hurt. No Eloy going down for big time. Even Lamet's injury doesn't seem to be too catastrophic. Should hopefully see him in the next couple weeks. Just more of a getting him ready to pitch at a high level rather than actually being healthy enough to pitch. So we'll see how that goes. And the best part about it is it's done in terms of me talking about the offseason, and the Padres will talk about Snell, and we talk about Darvish, and we talk about the contract for Fernando Tatis. This time Thursday, the talk will essentially be done, or at least be quieted, because the bats will be going, and hopefully it will be a very, very successful season for both of our teams. Like I said, I don't believe, outside of when we play each other, I don't believe we wish ill will on each other's teams.
No, just the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. We are united in the hatred of the Dodgers, like most people are in Southern California. If you don't like the Dodgers, but I definitely grew up going to the Angels games just as much as the Padre games. So it's nice to see that the Angels hopefully moving on in a positive direction. And obviously the Padres, if they're not moving in a positive direction, I don't know what is. So moving on to the last bit of, moving on to our Negro League player spotlight. We have Cannonball Dick Redding, which, look, come on, Cannonball, you kind of got to know what Dick Redding was about. He was born in Atlanta, 1893. He played or managed in 21 Negro League baseball seasons with the Lincoln Giants and Stars, Also, the Indianapolis ABCs, the Chicago American Giants, the Brooklyn Royal Giants, and the Baccarat Giants, which is based in Atlantic City. So, yes, it is named for the gambling game. He did get his nickname for his fastball, and it was apparently faster than Bob Feller's, which, once again, it was before the radar gun. So we're just going by word of mouth here. 30 no-hitters, around 30 no-hitters in his career, and 7 in 1 year. To me, all that right there, when it comes up with a comp, it sounds to me like Nolan Ryan, obviously a flamethrower, a guy who is intimidating, a guy who used the brushback pitch that is now common. Back in a day when it was not very common, really got his name that way. So Dick Redding, anything else you would like to add, Brianna?
I mean, passed away in a mental hospital at 58.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, he may have gone a little crazy. But I mean, that didn't stop him from doing really well before passing, 7 no-hitters?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of pitchers are struggling to do that today. So, I mean, that kind of says something.
Most of these pitchers can't even go the whole distance. I feel like if they go into the 7th inning with the no-hitter, the manager has a real, decision to make, right? Like, do you actually continue on with this guy or not? But I will say with the mental thing, he did serve World War I. So that possibly is a situation. He was apparently clean cut off the field, which isn't exactly there were a lot of you didn't hear a whole lot of clean cut players back in the day. Let me put it to you that way. We used to have a saying when we played baseball, we're not athletes, we're ball players. But that's how it was. You see Babe Ruth in the 1920s smoking cigars in the dugout, and he's the best player in baseball. Okay, we're probably not lifting weights in the off season, but very, very interesting to learn about a pitcher not named Satchel Paige, not named some of the other big name pitchers of the Negro Leagues, but a nickname like Cannonball, you got to know a big, big arm coming at you, and very intimidating as well, especially if you can master that brush back pitch. But the last 6 weeks, we have been giving you our division predictions, who wins, players to watch, bold predictions, etc., etc. And it's finally time to kind of, I guess, tie a bow on all of it. I will pat myself on the back. I didn't do it on purpose, but it was a perfect little timing going into 2 days away from the season starting. And it's time for us to do a little playoff prediction. So we have our, obviously, division picks. Make sure you go back, listen to all of those episodes and get those picks. But now it is kind of the time for the big question. We'll start with you, Bryanna, in the National League. Who wins the National League pennant and why?
I hate it. I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be the Dodgers. I mean, they're returning most of their World Series team from last year, and you've got David Price now in the lineup after sitting out the year. They picked up quite a few pitchers that will help them, obviously, relief-wise, coming out of the bullpen. But, I mean, come on. They've got the lineup. They've got the pitching. So I see it really as no question.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there's only one team that could give them a run for their money, and a different team that can give them a run for their money in the National League West.
Okay.
Okay. You said who wins National League, though.
That's fair.
Again.
I just wanted to make sure. I thought we were going in a different direction, but
no.
I got you now.
No. No, your pick for the National League versus your team. So you had to know I was going with it somewhere.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I can't argue with anyone who makes that pick because they are odds on. I mean, they are the favorites. They are the best team in baseball. No argument from me, even knowing how improved the Padres are in the offseason. I am going to go a slightly different direction, though. I am going to go with the Atlanta Braves, and I have a couple reasons why. I believe the Padres are going to kind of beat up on the Dodgers, or at the very least, add an extra, couple little bumps and bruises along the way. I expect the Braves to handle their business in a good National League East, a improved National League East, but I believe that they handle their business. They then obviously match up with the Dodgers in the NLCS. We saw what happened last year in the National League Championship Series. Braves are up 3-1. If it's not for a Will Smith on Will Smith crime where Will Smith, the catcher, hits a home run off Will Smith, the pitcher, we might have a different World Series champion. And that to me is all paired with losing your ace in Mike Soroka. Mike Soroka is ready to roll. He hopefully, I'm once again, I'm banking a lot of this on the health of the Braves. But I think that paired with the fact that the Padres and Dodger rivalry is just going to be so intense for the 12, 15, 18 games that they go head to head. I think by the time the Dodgers get to the National League Championship Series, they might not have enough left in the tank. Now, I'm also just kind of saying this just because I don't really want to pick the Dodgers. I hate the Dodgers more than pretty much anything out there. And if the Dodgers do go out and handle their business in the National League and win the pennant, I would not be surprised in the least bit. I would be very upset. But I do expect the Braves to really give the Dodgers a run for their money in the National League Championship Series. And hopefully the Padres will, what they do during the regular season, will have a hand in that as well. But moving on to the American League, I'll start this one off. I think that I'm going to probably get a little bit of hate here on the podcast for my American League pick. And it's definitely not a pick that fan favorites or the fans will be clamoring for, but I really believe we see the return of those damn cheaters, the trash can bangers themselves, the Houston Astros. And I want to tell you a couple reasons why. I really do think outside of the Yankees, healthy, which they already aren't, but outside of the Yankees, the Astros have the best bona fide lineup in the American League. The Twins and White Sox will be there. The White Sox took a little bit of a hit, obviously, with Eloy. The Twins, not a well-rounded lineup enough for me to be there. But the Astros also have a situation where in this division, in this league, there isn't a lot of great pitching as a rotation. You got Shane Bieber, you got Garrett Cole, you got a couple others, even, Tyler Glasnow is up there as well. But there's not a ton of great rotations. The good rotations as a whole are in the National League. So the Astros losing there or not having a great rotation, I don't think will hurt as much. We'll see how it goes. I think the American League is wide open. The National League, not really. I think it's a 2, maybe 3 horse race if the Padres can also get in there too. But the American League, who knows? This is up there. Bryanna, who is your pick to win the American League?
Okay, look, first, the Angels pitching lineup is not that bad. It's actually better than it has been. So I'm giving Angels credit for everything right now. But I don't see the Astros winning. I don't see the Angels winning. I don't see it being anybody in the American League West because it's just going to be a fight for 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, Mariners and Rangers are just out of it. But I believe the Angels will make the playoffs as a wild card. I don't think they're going to win. I think, obviously, I have no idea because it's not really going to matter. But I think if I had to choose, it would be between a healthy Yankees and a healthy White Sox. Those would be my 2 choices, but it's not going to matter. The National League is going to win, and we all know it.
I think the Yankees, if, like we said, if they're healthy and they can maybe pick up a pitcher like they always seem to do at the trade deadline, they may be able to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers.
But that's a major if.
100%. And then even then, if that is the case, once again, which is a major if, they would probably need to get some help, maybe a couple Dodger players out here and there. And as we said, both of those teams already, Voit isn't terrible. He'll be back probably mid-May or, early June. Eloy, I don't know if the White Sox are going to get healthy at all this year. Losing at your very least, your third best hitter, I could put Abreu and Grandal ahead of Eloy. I think this adds more pressure on Luis Robert or Robert. I can't tell if it's Robert or Robert, but anyways, that adds a little more pressure on a guy who kind of fell or at least tapered off towards the last of the year, which every rookie does, or kind of those big power hitters do kind of start to maybe worry a little bit too much about launch angle and your home runs and things like that. But I do expect the American League. I would love to see what the Dodger would be able to do against the American League representative. I hope that's not the case. Like I said, I'm picking the Braves to win the National League. I think we got the question answered there as terms of who wins the World Series there from you, Bryanna, saying that it doesn't really matter. Coming from the American League, I'll just throw my hat in there. I think the Braves will get the job done over my American League champion that I expect to be the Houston Astros. I think it would be a good series. But at the end of the day, I just think the Braves pitching gets it done. Healthy pitching. Once again, healthy. It's kind of that asterisk. You got to make sure you put that in front of everything because, the minute the Braves lost Soroka last year, it seemed to let some air out of the balloon. And I really do believe that a healthy Braves team goes on and at the very least is in the World Series against the Rays as opposed to the Dodgers. But hopefully I think both of us want us to be wrong. I want you to be wrong about the Dodgers, and you want me to be wrong.
I want to be wrong about the Dodgers.
Yes, so it's perfect little things to keep an eye on, and the best part about it is we got about a couple days, and all of the talk, like I said, will be somewhat silenced, and it'll be time to get down to business and start answering some of these questions about who is going to stay healthy and who is going to be good and who is, well, going to be the Pirates. Let's be honest. But
Rangers.
Or the Rangers, yes. Final thoughts, Bryanna, for the final offseason changeup. We made it. We got through the offseason.
Well, some of the MVP odds are already out. No question of who's at the top. Mike Trout is a 2-1 favorite. Ohtani is gaining traction, and he's 20-1 right now. Bregman 11-1, Judge 12-1, and that's about all I can see right now. But I mean, if Trout does not win this MVP, I want it to go to Tatis. Ohtani will not get it. He's not going to get it for a few more years until he's at least healthy and can actually stay in for a full season.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for Tatis, obviously he's up there in the National League category. I know Mookie Betts in the National League was I think maybe 3.5 to 1, 4 to 1. I'll tell you this right now, in April, with no games played, and you are a 2-1 futures favorite to win MVP, that is ridiculous. That just tells you how unbelievably good Mike Trout is. And believe me, you don't need to look at the odds board to tell you how good he is, but I try to explain to people, when you're looking at that in early April, you're trying to make 10, 15 to 1 on those are top 5 picks in there. And you got Mike Trout at 2-1, even Mookie Betts 3.5, 4 to 1, or wherever it was. The MVP is very, very interesting because you have to also take into account, look, your team better be damn good too. You have to make the playoffs if you want to win the MVP, unless you are Mike Trout. You have to put up those otherworldly numbers for really, Mike Trout's been the only player that I've seen in the last 20 years that has not made the playoffs, but has been an MVP and deserves to be an MVP. So very interesting to see there. Now, let's get him into the playoffs. And I don't want a 1 game. I want to see him in a 3-game series. If they have to go win a 1-game playoff, I think the Angels got a shot. I know Bryanna thinks they're a couple years away from winning the World Series, but I think with
I didn't say that about playoffs, though.
No, you're right. No, and I'll throw that out there. And I did clarify with her earlier that it was like she said earlier, expects them to make the playoffs this year. Maybe in terms of, I'm a little higher on that. I think the openness of the American League makes things, maybe that window is open a little more.
But you've got the A's and the Astros in the West with them. So that's going to be the major issue, will be those 2 teams. I see them either way finishing in the top 2. So either way, I see them at least getting a wild card. I'm not saying they're going to get higher, but I'm saying at the very least, they're going to get the wild card.
Yeah, and I'm taking it
unless they have major injuries.
Always, yes, definitely. And like I said, I'll take it a step further and say if they don't have major injuries, this is a legitimate number 3 or 4 contender to win the American League pennant. I really do believe that if they stay healthy, I don't think the A's have a better shot, and I don't think the White Sox or the Twins have a better shot, but we will see. Luckily, because like I said, by the time you're listening to this, more than likely baseball will be being played, and we'll be getting ready to break down 162 games. As always, we'll be back with you next week here on the Changeup, presented by the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are First. Thank you all so much for listening. It is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We will talk to you all very soon. Enjoy opening day and have a great week, everyone.